Today is day 100. 100 days since an 84-year-old woman was taken from her own home in the middle of the night. 100 days since a masked figure with a gun and double gloves walked up to her front door while she slept. 100 days since her pacemaker went silent on her phone at 2:28 in the morning, and the world started watching. And as of right now, no arrest. No named suspect. No Nancy. But here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. This case did not go cold. The cameras moved on. The street outside her Catalina Foothills home that was packed with investigators in February is quiet now. But the people working this case have not moved on. On Tuesday, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos looked into a camera and said something he has not said with this much clarity before. He said, "I believe, at some point in time, we will make an arrest on this case." He said, "We are not going to give up on it just because it's been 100 days. An arrest. Not a possibility. Not a hope. A belief. From the man running the investigation." And just 2 days before that, on Mother's Day, Savannah Guthrie posted a video on Instagram. Home footage, old photographs, her mother laughing, her mother holding grandchildren, and at one point, Nancy looking directly at the camera and saying 2 words. "Miss you." The caption read, "We will never stop looking for you. We will never be at peace until we find you. Someone knows something that can make the difference." That is where we are on day 100. A family that is still waiting. A sheriff who says an arrest is coming. And a case that has more unanswered questions now than it did the day it started. So today, I am not going to walk you through the financial trail. You have heard that. I am not going to talk about the loan refusal, the power of attorney, the 14-hour silence. Other people have covered all of that. What I want to talk about today is something that has barely been discussed anywhere. Something that connects every piece of this case in a way that has not been said clearly until now. I want to talk about the boss. Let me start with what we now know for certain, as of this week, because there are 2 new confirmed developments that change the texture of everything that came before them. The first is the DNA. CBS News confirmed that at the 100-day mark, the investigation could hang on a single strand of DNA that is still being evaluated by scientists at the FBI laboratory in Quantico, Virginia. That hair sample, recovered from inside Nancy's home, was first sent to a private lab in Florida. Then it was transferred to Quantico for more advanced testing. Law enforcement sources confirmed to CBS that the work is still ongoing. The process is slow, but it has never stopped. Here is why this matters more than people realize. This is not basic DNA matching. What Quantico is capable of, and what the San Francisco lab that helped convict Rex Huertas, the Long Island serial killer, pioneered, is forensic genetic genealogy. That technology does not just look for a match in a criminal database. It builds a family tree from a DNA sample. It works backward through ancestry databases, through relatives who have uploaded their own genetic profiles until it arrives at a living person. A person who may never have committed a crime in their life. A person with no record, no red flags, no reason to appear in any system. The Cody's database already came back negative on this case. That tells us exactly who we are looking for. Someone clean. Someone ordinary. Someone whose name, if you heard it, would not alarm you. The second development this week is Messier, and it is more important than anyone has given it credit for. A Pima County sergeant named Aaron Cross gave an interview in which he said something explosive, that the family initially believed Nancy had simply walked away from her home. That directly contradicted what Savannah Guthrie said publicly on the Today Show in March, that Annie and Tommaso were insisting from the very first moments that this was not a walk-away situation. 2 different stories. Two different versions of what the family told investigators in those first critical hours. Now here is where it gets complicated. The Pima County Deputies Union later issued an official clarification. Cross admitted he misspoke. What he meant, he said, was that the family initially thought Nancy may have been taken voluntarily, possibly by an ambulance to a hospital, not that she had wandered off on her own. The union apologized publicly for the miscommunication. So does that close the book on it? Maybe, but it opened a door that is now very difficult to close. Because the question it raised is real, regardless of the correction. In those first critical hours, before law enforcement had drawn any conclusions, did the people closest to Nancy point investigators toward a medical explanation rather than toward a crime scene? And if so, how long did that delay the response? When you see blood at a front door, when you see a Nest camera pulled from its mount, when you see a pacemaker disconnect from a phone at 2:28 in the morning, you do not think ambulance. Retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffin-Daffer said it plainly. When you see a Nest camera pulled from its mount and blood leading to a vehicle, you immediately know that something nefarious has gone on. Law enforcement knew within hours. But the question of what the family said in those first hours, and what version of events they offered to the first officers on scene, remains a thread that has not been fully pulled. Now I want to talk about the Porch guy, because this is where the case cracked open in a direction nobody was expecting. On May 6, 2026, a television special aired on the CW called The Nancy Guthrie Mystery. It was hosted by Brian Enton, and it brought together some of the most credentialed criminal profilers in the country, Dr. and Burgess, Dr. Gary Brucato, Dr. Casey Jordan. These are not YouTube commentators. These are people who have built careers studying how crimes like this are planned and executed. And what they said was this: the masked man on the porch, the person everyone has been focused on for 100 days, may not be the person who planned this at all. He may have been a hired hand, a pawn, a person sent to do a job by someone else entirely. Dr. and Burgess went further. She said the Porch guy, the masked, armed figure captured on Nancy's doorbell camera at 1:47 in the morning, may already be dead. Let that sit for a moment. She said there may be a boss, a figure behind the scenes who planned everything, hired the Porch guy to execute it, and then eliminated the one person who could connect the plan back to them. She said, that person may have been eliminated by the boss. She added, it was well planned. They got away with it. And they pulled a type of case that we've never seen before, as far as we know. A type of case we have never seen before. Now think about what that means. We have spent 100 days focused on the figure at the door. The balaclava, the double gloves, the backpack, the height, the build, the gait on that grainy camera footage. We have compared that figure to every person connected to this case. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffin-Daffer said clearly she does not believe Tommaso Soni is the Porch guy. Wrong build, wrong mannerisms, wrong age. The Porch guy, she believes, is significantly younger. But here is what Coffin-Daffer and these profilers are now pointing at. The Porch guy and the person who wanted Nancy gone may be two completely different people. And the person who wanted Nancy gone may be someone who has never been within camera range. Not on February 1st. Not ever. That is the architecture of a hire. That is the blueprint of someone who understood that the worst thing they could do was be physically present. Someone who wanted distance. Plausible deniability. A clean record. No DNA on any surface inside that house. Just a plan, a phone call, and someone else's hands doing the work. Here is what the pre-planning evidence tells us about that boss. Investigators confirmed that the Porch guy was not a first-time visitor to Nancy's door. Surveillance evidence showed a figure approaching the residence on a day before February 1st, without a backpack, without a weapon, without the gear of someone there to commit a crime. He was there to look, to measure, to learn the layout, the camera positions, the timing of the neighborhood. Retired Pima County Lieutenant Bob Krieger walked journalists through the desert wash system surrounding Nance's neighborhood, networks of dry riverbeds that carved through the Catalina foothills, some wide enough to conceal a vehicle, all of them invisible from any road. He said a person could drive 10 seconds into one of those washes and vanish completely from sight. He also said this: "You are not going to stumble upon this area from Nance's house. You would have to know it was there. You would have to have studied it." A neighbor told reporters she saw a suspicious man walking near one of those wash routes on the same day. She asked not to be named. She said she was afraid. Another neighbor's Ring camera captured a vehicle moving away from the direction of Nance's home in the minutes after her pacemaker went dark. That footage was handed to the FBI in February. Think about what this pre-planning tells you about the boss. This is not someone who heard about an opportunity and acted on impulse. This is someone who knew the neighborhood. Someone who knew the house. Someone who knew Nance's routine well enough to know that she would be alone at night, that her hearing aids would come out before bed, that her cameras were not actively recording, that the dog that used to live there was gone. Someone with access to the kind of detail that only exists when you have been paying attention for a very long time. And the Cody's result comes back to haunt this theory in the best possible way for investigators. The DNA on that hair does not belong to a criminal. It belongs to someone whose name has never appeared in a criminal database. Someone who lives a life that looks entirely normal from the outside. Someone who could, theoretically, know the schedule of an 84-year-old woman because they were in her world. Someone who sent another person to do what they could not afford to do themselves. There is one more piece I want to address this week, and it has received almost no attention despite the fact that one person in the comments section of this very case raised it, and 71 people agreed it deserved more scrutiny. Adult Protective Services. Before Nancy disappeared, someone filed a report. A business card from Adult Protective Services was found slipped between the door of her home. Someone, a neighbor, a concerned person, a mandated reporter, called the state and said that an 84-year-old woman in the Catalina foothills was being neglected. Let me be very clear about what Adult Protective Services investigates. They investigate situations where an elderly person is not receiving adequate care, where their safety is being compromised, where the people responsible for their well-being are not doing what they should. Whoever made that call looked at Nancy Guthrie's situation: no working cameras, no overnight care, no medical alert, no companion, medication that could be fatal to miss, and decided the situation was serious enough to report it to the state. That report was filed before she was taken. Before February 1st. Before the masked man with a backpack walked up to her front porch. Someone out there already knew that something was wrong with the way Nancy Guthrie was being left alone in that house. And they made a call. And nothing changed. That call is a record. It has a filer. It has a date. And it sits inside a case that the sheriff now says will end in an arrest. So where does that leave us on day 100? The DNA is at Quantico. The FBI has a rootless hair from inside Nance's home, and the most advanced forensic genealogy technology in the world is working backward through family trees to find the person it belongs to. That process takes months. But it has never permanently failed when the evidence is good. The Porch guy, the person everyone has been staring at for 100 days, may be a dead end. Not because he is innocent, but because he may already be gone, eliminated by the person who sent him. A boss who covered every track, who never touched the house, who never appeared on a camera, who let someone else take the risk and then remove that risk. And the investigation is still moving. The sheriff says an arrest is coming. The FBI director, Kash Patel, said publicly that the Bureau was kept out of the investigation for 4 days at the start, for days that cannot be recovered, for days that may have cost this case its fastest path to resolution. That friction between local law enforcement and the FBI, documented, confirmed, official, is part of why we are still here on day 100 without answers. But the CBS News report this week was clear. The work has not stopped. The labs are still running. The digital evidence is still being processed. And somewhere, inside a database that the person who left that hair does not know exists, a family tree is being built, branch by branch, backward through generations, toward a name that the boss may believe is safe, that the boss may believe is protected by distance, by a hired hand, by a clean record, by a plan that was as careful and deliberate as anything law enforcement says they have ever seen in a case like this. But here is the thing about genetic genealogy. Distance does not protect you from it. A clean record does not protect you from it. A hired hand who is no longer alive cannot protect you from it. The only thing that protects you from it is that the hair does not have a root, that the DNA is too degraded to profile, that the science fails. And investigators have not said the science has failed. They have said the work is ongoing. Day 100. No arrest yet. But a sheriff who says one is coming. And a strand of DNA sitting in a lab in Virginia that may already have the answer. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. If you have any information, contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900 or the FBI directly at 1-800-CALL-FBI. The reward is $1.2 million. It remains available. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you think the boss is? Do you believe the Porch guy was just a hired hand? Or do you think he acted alone? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and some of the best leads in cases like this come from people just like you paying attention. And if you are new here, welcome to Justice Rewritten. If this video gave you something to think about, something other channels are not saying, hit that subscribe button. We cover the cases that deserve more than a headline. We stay until there are answers. Subscribe to Justice Rewritten and make sure you never miss an update on this case or any other. We will talk soon.